Welcome back to Paul's Tech News. Thank you for joining me as we recap this historic and unprecedented week of tech-shaped news, headlined, of course, by the most anticipated event of 2026 thus far, the awesome Hardware Extra Life charity livestream, Summer Edition, which ended just a scant few hours or so ago, making the existence of this week's Tech News installments all the more impressive. Point is, though, somehow watching Kyle and I suck at video games for 8 hours or so resulted in this much money being raised for Children's Miracle Network hospitals so far. So thank you to all who stopped by and donated for your generosity. And even if you missed the stream, you can still donate and enter the giveaways, including my Asus ROG Edition 20 build, which has an Astral RTX 5090 and a total price well above 5 figures. But that was the good part of the tech news this week, so now we'll run cleanup and keep you up to speed with everything else that happened, like rampant GTA 6 leaks, RAM drama between CXMT and Samsung, questionable Intel Nova Lake rumors, and perhaps another unexpected PC components price going up? Maybe. We're monitoring that situation, and more on this week's Tech News.
Excellent!
Today's video is brought to you by Lexar NM790 NVMe SSDs, providing lightning-fast storage for the latest generation of gaming and workstation PCs. Featuring a high-bandwidth PCIe Gen 4x4 interface, broad compatibility thanks to the M.2 2280 form factor, and capacities from 512 GB up to 8 TB, the NM790 makes no compromises, and is conveniently available with or without an integrated heatsink. Enjoy peak performance with sequential read speeds up to 7,400 MB per second and write speeds up to 6,500 MB per second, as well as PlayStation 5 compatibility with the heatsink-enabled model and a solid 5-year manufacturer warranty. For more on Lexar NM790 NVMe SSDs, click the sponsor link in the video description. We begin with a handful of stories related to Intel's next-gen CPU architecture, Nova Lake, which, per Intel VP Robert Hallock, will be arriving on desktop PCs first, a bit of a contrast to AMD's recent decision to launch Zen 6 on EPYC first, which I noted goes against their rollout schedule for Ryzen over the past 10 years, which always launched for desktops first. Mr. Hallock disclosed the desktop-first Nova Lake S plans in an interview with Tom's Hardware and said, "I hope enthusiasts do the math about that one," contrasting it to the EPYC launch, which is a clear call to arms for PC gamers to overthrow the current AMD stranglehold on peak CPU performance and get back to an intensely competitive environment where manufacturers do battle for our pleasure rather than the current environment of all PC hardware just getting progressively more expensive every time you look at it. It's somewhat refreshing, at least, to see Mr. Hallock, aka Bobby Hacks, if I can get that nickname to stick, ribbing his ex-employer AMD in the lead-up to the debut of new CPU families launching from both AMD and Intel. And given that Intel managed to make the Arrow Lake refresh 250K and 270K plus launch earlier this year somewhat interesting through good messaging, aggressive pricing, and reasonable performance gains, I am glad that they still seem to be sticking with that approach. That's not to say it's all optimistic news this week, though, as another leak via LC Tech Leaks, further corroborated by Golden Pig Upgrade, seems to indicate yet another naming scheme change for Team Blue, going back to a 4-digit product name with the SKU Core Ultra 9 4950K shown in a partial CPU-Z screenshot. There's debate as to whether that's a final name or a placeholder, but the 4-digit scheme is apparently needed because there are just too many SKUs and 3 digits is not enough. I just think they need to choose one or the other and stick to it because deciphering CPU names is confusing enough already. And while the supposed CPU-Z scores of about 1,000 single-thread and 20,000 multi-thread for this 28-core processor would put it well above any others on the market, it's also now rumored that the BLLC version of this chip might have a 296-watt PL2 power limit, well above the Core Ultra 9 285K's PL2 rating of 250 watts. There's still a lot to be determined about Nova Lake S, but I'd most like to confirm the launch date. It's still supposedly coming before the end of 2026, but I wouldn't be surprised if that means a minimal launch of a few flagship SKUs in December, followed by a much broader rollout in Q1 2027. Next up, a word of caution when it comes to market predictions. There's a lot of uncertainty in the PC hardware space in particular right now, and memory prices obviously are at the forefront of our current predicament. But overpriced memory was joined by overpriced SSDs and storage, and now GPUs are back on the upswing, and it can be difficult to determine if there are legitimate causes behind price increases, or if there's some form of manipulation taking place. Or both, perhaps. Why not both? ¿Por qué no los dos? So when I saw this report from monitor maker KTC, who shared a public statement that they can no longer absorb the global rise in prices for core components and would therefore be increasing their monitor prices, I wasn't certain of its veracity.
On the one hand, manufacturers hedging their bets against future materials cost increases is a sensible move, but at the same time I haven't seen reports of a similar nature from other large display makers. AOC seems to be the only one who has commented as well, and I don't think AOC or KTC would be regarded as A-tier businesses when it comes to brand recognition. We definitely don't need any other PC hardware components going up in price though, so hopefully this was just a bit of bluster, or perhaps an attempt to hop on the "oh no, we have to charge more for our products" bandwagon from KTC, and not an indicator of a broader market trend. This week was also peppered with a trove of GTA 6 leaks, which I will attempt to summarize here. GTA 6, which launches on consoles November 19th and has a special extended look at gameplay premiering on Netflix on August 27th, was hit by another raft of leaks this week, with a series of videos being posted that appear to show a full build of the game in a playable state. Speculation ran rampant earlier in the week as the leaker, purportedly CyberLeaks, who embedded an ad for their cryptocurrency scheme in each video, doled out gameplay videos showing basketball, driving, and fighting NPCs, which were pored over by skeptics until a fourth installment showed them actually shooting the word leak into a wall, L-E-E-K, which seemed to verify that they have the actual goods. Take-Two has apparently been DMCAing the video clips wherever they can, but of course removing something from the internet is about as hard as getting pee out of a swimming pool, so they've been regularly reposted on a variety of social media platforms and rogue subreddits, which have also been taken down. The source of the leaks is difficult to pin down, but Respawn first claims, based on comments from folks in the industry, that the build that was shown is running on PC and that it is linked back to Rockstar India, where an employee may have fallen victim to a phishing scheme. The leaker's motivation seems transparent. It's money, as per the rampant crypto ad embeddings, but IGN cited GTA forums member Vice Sit, who investigated the meme coin in question and said that the leakers have made somewhere between $40,000 to $60,000 in just trading fees so far, which would also explain the slow rollout of the videos to attempt to extend the hype. Another theory is that Rockstar is somehow in on these leaks as a bit of guerrilla marketing leading up to the launch, but I find that doubtful given that Rockstar seems more apt to setting up Netflix exclusive gameplay reveal deals than dabbling in shenanigans promoting a shady crypto coin. If there's one takeaway from all this though, it's that there are GTA 6 builds that totally work on PC, and Rockstar has no excuse for making the game console only at launch. Moving on to some tech briefs which happen almost as fast as CXMT's latest RAM modules. 9,000 megatransfers per second, the Chinese-based fabricator has now hit, matching our Western gaming PCs, as PC Gamer puts it. But what if CXMT's progress in RAM making was actually built upon a foundation of lies? So alleges a former Samsung engineer called Jeon, who worked for Samsung for 28 years before being hired at CXMT in 2016, in testimony given in an ongoing South Korean criminal case. CXMT had no research institutes or facilities at the time of its establishment and had no intention of developing technology through its own research, said Jeon, which, if true, would indicate that their entire business model was founded on a plan to steal Samsung's research rather than developing manufacturing capabilities from scratch. This could explain CXMT's rapid progress from 22 nanometer in 2019 to 18 nanometer in 2023, but the jury is still out, quite literally, on whether or not the testimony is true, and if it is, how CXMT might be held accountable. Speaking of being held accountable for memory stuff, G.Skill has apparently started paying out compensation to buyers of their memory between 2018 and 2026 who participated in a class action lawsuit in the US, which resulted in a $2.4 million settlement. While savvy PC builders have long been aware that advertised RAM speeds are not guaranteed and require a CPU that can handle higher frequencies, casual buyers are not, and that was enough for a class action suit to be brought forth in 2022. G.Skill denied wrongdoing but opted to settle the case, but sadly, individual RAM buyers are reporting that they're only getting $20 to $25 back, quite a bit less than the $800,000 out of that $2.4 million that went to attorney's fees. Hopefully the real benefit from this case will be clearer labeling on RAM kits for buyers who don't know Expo from XMP. And finally, Ruby is back for PC gamers. No, not the ATI mascot named Ruby from the 2000s, though she deserves a comeback run if Radeon ever decides to launch good GPUs again, but the 80+ Ruby rating, which somehow ranks above Platinum and Titanium because they ran out of precious metals, I suppose. But the Seasonic Prime Enterprise RX 1600 is now the first ever 80+ Ruby certified power supply at 115 volts at least. To be clear, this rating was introduced in 2024, and there are 40 or so 230 volt PSUs that have gone Ruby, which adds a 5% load efficiency requirement alongside 10, 20, 50, and 100, which is important since many PCs are at idle most of the time. So hats off to Seasonic, they are a great PSU maker after all, and hopefully excellent idle load efficiency trickles down to PSUs that don't cost upwards of $500. Okay, one last item, which is to say thank you once again to those of you who stopped by our Extra Life charity livestream, and especially to those who were able to donate to the cause. That fundraiser will be open through the end of the year, and we are planning another livestream in December, but for now, please note that the giveaways are still open, including the ridiculously over-the-top Asus ROG 20th anniversary build that I put together. You can check out the video on that too. So feel free to enter that giveaway if you're eligible, and note that donations are not required, but they are very much appreciated. But there you have it, guys, tech news for the week, and if you liked it, click that like button or leave me a comment down below. While you're down there, all the articles I talked about today are linked in the video's description if you're interested, and you can check out my store at paulshardware.net for high-quality merchandise, t-shirts, hoodies, beer sets, and more, including the new Tri-Blend collection, the classic thumbscrew with different colors. Subscribing to my channel is always a good call too. Thanks again, everyone, and we'll see you next week.